Welcome back to Myths Unraveled. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. Astaroth's symbolism is deeply rooted in the dual nature of power, blending both divine and diabolical elements in his persona. The way in which he embodies these contrasting aspects speaks volumes about the broader themes of temptation, fallibility, and the enticement of worldly power. In many ways, Astaroth's symbolism mirrors the most universal and timeless struggles faced by humanity: the pursuit of power, the corruption of the soul, and the fragile boundaries between good and evil. At the core of Astaroth's symbolic significance is the idea of power. This power is not merely physical, but spiritual and intellectual. It's the power that can shape destinies, mold kingdoms, and alter the very fabric of one's soul. Often depicted with a crown, Astaroth's royal regalia immediately associates him with kingship, dominion, and sovereignty. This crown, which can be seen as both a symbol of power and control, reminds us of the age-old desire for control over one's environment, the world, and other people. His role as a figure of immense authority in Christian demonology is built upon his ability to manipulate this desire for dominance, especially by preying on those who already seek power or knowledge for personal gain. Astaroth, as a fallen angel, symbolizes the potential for corruption that comes with the thirst for control. What is particularly intriguing about Astaroth's symbolism is how he combines elements of divine authority with that of temptation and evil. The crown he wears does not simply denote power, it also signifies the fall from grace. Astaroth was once an angel, likely of high rank, and his descent from heaven represents the shift from a noble pursuit of divine power to a corrupted desire for control over souls. This duality, of a regal being who has fallen from grace, provides the backdrop for Astaroth's symbolism. It speaks to the deeper themes of hubris, pride, and the dangers of seeking power beyond one's rightful place. Power, in this sense, is not inherently evil, but it becomes so when it is pursued for selfish reasons, when it corrupts and distorts one's original nature. The serpent that often accompanies Astaroth is another key symbol in his identity. The serpent, in many mythologies, including the Abrahamic tradition, represents temptation and knowledge, two forces with the potential to both elevate and destroy. In the story of the fall of man, for instance, it is the serpent that convinces Eve to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, thereby leading to humanity's expulsion from Eden. Astaroth's connection with the serpent deepens this idea, as he represents the embodiment of temptation, the allure of forbidden knowledge, and the promise of enlightenment at a terrible cost. Astaroth's serpent is not just a passive creature, but an active agent of deceit, luring individuals with the promise of power, wisdom, or other worldly secrets, only to lead them astray. The combination of the crown and the serpent in Astaroth's imagery is potent. The crown represents the worldly, hierarchical authority, while the serpent speaks to a more primal, dangerous form of power, the power of the forbidden, the corrupting power of knowledge that was never meant to be obtained. It is as if Astaroth embodies the perfect storm of human desires, the urge to dominate, the thirst for enlightenment, and the deadly consequences of both. Through this, he serves as a reminder of how power, when wielded recklessly, or without the wisdom to temper it, can lead to ruin. Astaroth also represents the darker side of ambition. This ambition is not just for wealth or dominion over land, but for immortality and transcendence. When mortals come into contact with Astaroth, they are often led to seek knowledge that promises to transcend the limitations of human existence. Astaroth is a bringer of forbidden knowledge, offering wisdom that can grant individuals extraordinary power or eternal life. However, this knowledge comes with a terrible cost. To gain such power, one must forsake their soul or make an irrevocable pact that forever alters their destiny. The dual nature of this offer, offering the potential to unlock the deepest mysteries of the universe, but only at the expense of one's humanity, embodies the ultimate seduction of Astaroth. It's a temptation that speaks to the innermost desires of the human heart, the desire to transcend mortality, to achieve greatness, to have dominion over time itself. This temptation can be seen as part of a broader narrative about the cost of ambition. Astaroth stands as a symbol of how unchecked ambition can corrupt and lead to one's downfall. Those who seek knowledge, power, or immortality without consideration for the consequences often find themselves ensnared in his web. The story of Astaroth, then, is not just about the demon himself, but about the larger human condition, our inability to resist the allure of power, and the dangers of seeking control at any cost. Astaroth's temptation is not just for kings or sorcerers, but for anyone who has ever desired to surpass their mortal limits, to reach beyond what is granted to them by fate. Another key element in Astaroth's symbolism is his association with fallen angels. The notion of a once divine being descending into the depths of hell speaks to the tragic and inevitable fall from grace that often accompanies the pursuit of power. In Astaroth, we see a reflection of humanity's potential to fall into darkness, to lose touch with the purity of its original purpose. His fall is not a momentary lapse, but a permanent change in nature, a transformation that serves as a warning to those who would aspire to rise above their station. The story of Astaroth highlights the fragility of the human soul when confronted with the seduction of power. The pursuit of greatness, when not tempered by humility or guided by wisdom, can lead to one's ruin. The duality in Astaroth's symbolism also suggests an existential truth. The line between good and evil is often blurred, and power itself is not inherently evil. Astaroth is neither a straightforward villain nor a clear-cut force of evil. Rather, he embodies the ambiguity of power and its potential for both creation and destruction. In many ways, Astaroth reflects the complexities of the human psyche, our yearning for greatness, and our propensity for self-destruction. His symbolism forces us to question the very nature of power. Is it the desire for control that corrupts, or is it the use of power itself that brings about corruption? Astaroth, in his regal serpentine form, challenges us to grapple with these questions. Ultimately, Astaroth's symbolism speaks to the fragile balance between divine power and the corrupting forces of temptation. He represents the temptation to pursue power without regard for the price, and the fall from grace that inevitably follows. His depiction, with a crown, a serpent, and the beast he rides, paints a portrait of a being who, like those who seek power, is both majestic and monstrous. He is a reminder that while power can elevate, it can also destroy, and that the pursuit of it without wisdom or caution can lead to one's eternal damnation. Astaroth's symbolism is a powerful commentary on the dangers of ambition, the allure of forbidden knowledge, and the fragile line between divine elevation and catastrophic fall. Astaroth's appearance in Christian demonology and occult texts is rich with complex symbolism that reflects his nature as both a demon of temptation and a being of immense power. This intricate imagery conveys a great deal about his role in both the world of the living and the unseen spiritual realms. As a demon, Astaroth is often depicted in ways that emphasize his otherworldly nature, but his form and attributes also carry the weight of his former glory. These symbols, his feathered wings, serpent, crown, and dragon-like beast, speak to his fallen state and his connection to both heavenly power and demonic ruin. The depiction of Astaroth as a male figure with feathered wings is significant for several reasons. First, the wings themselves point to his original nature as an angel, a celestial being once associated with the divine order. Feathers, in many ancient cultures, represent not only the physical ability to fly, but also a connection to the heavens, freedom, and transcendence. Astaroth's wings are not just ornamental, they represent his potential for greatness, his divine origin, and his ability to traverse both the heavens and the earth. However, in the context of his fall, the wings also come to symbolize the loss of his divine status and his descent into darkness. The use of feathers to represent Astaroth's angelic past contrasts sharply with his present condition as a demon. This duality reflects the eternal tension in his nature between the celestial being he once was and the corrupted demon he has become. The fallen angel trope is central to many demonological figures in both Christianity and other religious traditions, and Astaroth embodies this transformation in full. His wings are a visual reminder of the heavenly realm he once inhabited, but they are now tinged with the corruption of his rebellion against God. Rather than suggesting freedom or ascension, they now speak of pride and fall, of a being who sought to rise above his station, and in doing so, lost everything that made him divine. The crown that Astaroth wears is equally important in understanding his symbolic representation. Crowns are of course symbols of royalty and authority. In many cultures, a crown signifies the right to rule, the legitimacy of power, and the recognition of sovereignty. Astaroth's crown indicates that, like other fallen angels, he was once a being of great power. However, it also serves as a reminder of his fall from grace, for the crown he now wears is not one of divine approval, but of demonic rebellion. The very fact that he has retained a crown after his fall shows the complex relationship he has with power. Though he no longer reigns in heaven, Astaroth still retains a semblance of his former glory, using it to assert his dominion in the infernal realms. This connection between his crown and his rebellion highlights the corruptive nature of power. What was once a symbol of divine rule has now become a mark of pride and defiance. In contrast to the otherworldly majesty conveyed by Astaroth's wings and crown, the serpent that he often holds represents a more subtle and insidious form of power. The serpent has long been a symbol of temptation, particularly in the Judeo-Christian tradition. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent tempted Eve to disobey God, leading to humanity's fall from grace. Astaroth's serpent is a manifestation of this ongoing theme of temptation, a constant reminder of the dangers of succumbing to desire and curiosity without regard for the consequences. The serpent is often associated with knowledge, but not just any knowledge. It represents forbidden knowledge, the kind that leads to corruption, chaos, and spiritual death. Astaroth's serpent, therefore, represents the knowledge that comes with a price, the kind of knowledge that leads to damnation rather than salvation. It is a symbol of the demonic allure of wisdom without wisdom, an invitation to seek out secrets that should remain hidden, to push the boundaries of what is allowed, and in doing so to fall victim to temptation. This form of knowledge is not about enlightenment, but about manipulation and the destruction of the soul. In Astaroth's case, the serpent he wields suggests that his role in the spiritual world is one of luring others into making the same mistake he made, choosing forbidden power over divine order. The serpent reinforces Astaroth's association with the dark side of knowledge, the kind that only leads to eternal separation from the divine. The beast that Astaroth rides is another potent symbol in his representation, often described as having dragon-like wings and a serpent-like tail. This creature is a manifestation of Astaroth's dominion over the infernal realms. The beast is a powerful creature that embodies the raw, untamed forces of darkness and chaos, and it is fitting that Astaroth, in his fallen state, would command such a creature. The beast symbolizes the destructive power that Astaroth has come to wield, a power that is as terrifying as it is intoxicating. It is a reminder of the chaos that Astaroth has chosen to embrace by rejecting the divine order. The dragon, traditionally a symbol of strength, primal energy, and danger, highlights the sheer force and violence that Astaroth can command. Riding the beast also suggests Astaroth's mastery over chaos and destruction. He is no longer bound by divine law or the constraints of the natural world. Instead, he has become a master of the dark forces that disrupt creation. The beast is not merely a vehicle for Astaroth, but an extension of his own nature, a symbol of the destructive consequences of his rebellion. In many ways, the beast represents the animalistic and chaotic forces that lie at the heart of Astaroth's being. While the crown suggests order and authority, the beast speaks to his embrace of anarchy, destruction, and rebellion. Together, they present a complete picture of Astaroth as both a fallen angel of power and a demon of chaos. When viewed together, these symbols, Astaroth's crown, wings, serpent, and beast, reveal the complexity of his character and the depths of his fall. Each element serves to underscore a different aspect of his nature. The crown speaks to his former divine authority, the wings to his celestial origins, the serpent to the tempting nature of forbidden knowledge, and the beast to his embrace of chaos and destruction. These symbols together illustrate the dangers of power, knowledge, and rebellion against divine order. Astaroth's image, rich in symbolism, conveys not just the essence of his demonhood, but also the tragic consequences of his fall. He is a figure who embodies both the greatness of the divine and the destruction of the damned, a reminder of the consequences of pride, ambition, and the temptation to rise above one's rightful place. In the context of Astaroth's role in demonology, these symbols also reflect his seduction of those who seek to break free from the constraints of morality and divine law. He is not merely a demon who torments, he is a master of temptation, an architect of moral and spiritual ruin. Those who encounter him are not simply dragged into the abyss, they are enticed, seduced by the promise of power, knowledge, and freedom from the constraints of the divine order. Astaroth's symbolism therefore speaks not only to his own nature, but to the very nature of temptation itself, the allure of what is forbidden, the promise of power, and the tragic cost of giving in. Through his symbols, Astaroth presents a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition and the price of seeking to transcend one's nature. Astaroth's role as a tempter and corrupter is one of the most striking aspects of his character. In many ways, Astaroth embodies the archetype of the demon who lures humans toward destruction, not through brute force, but through subtle manipulation, temptation, and the promise of unearned rewards. This aspect of his nature makes him a particularly dangerous figure in demonology, as he represents the seductive power of the forbidden. Unlike demons who use sheer violence or fear to control, Astaroth is the one who offers tantalizing glimpses of forbidden knowledge, power, or pleasure, drawing individuals into his influence by feeding their desires and weaknesses. At the core of Astaroth's temptations is the promise of wisdom and knowledge. In various occult traditions, he is associated with secrets and forbidden truths. This is not the sort of knowledge that brings enlightenment or divine understanding, but rather the kind of knowledge that leads to corruption, ruin, and spiritual downfall. Astaroth, through his serpent symbolism, offers a tempting invitation to seek out that which is not meant to be known. Much like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, he encourages individuals to challenge divine authority and the natural order in pursuit of knowledge that will give them power. This is the ultimate deception, the idea that knowledge, in and of itself, is worth pursuing without understanding the cost it exacts. Through Astaroth, the seeker of forbidden wisdom is often led to realize too late that the knowledge he offers is a poison to the soul, stripping away innocence and leaving only emptiness. Astaroth's primary method of corruption, therefore, is not through brute force, but through the distortion of desire. He targets the weaknesses and aspirations of those he seeks to ensnare, offering them what they think they want: power, recognition, insight into hidden truths, the ability to shape their fate. But these gifts come at a great cost. The most dangerous aspect of Astaroth's temptation is that his promises often seem plausible, even reasonable. Who wouldn't want knowledge? Who wouldn't desire power or understanding of the world beyond the physical realm? Astaroth doesn't offer empty promises, he offers tantalizing glimpses of what could be, disguising the price one must pay in order to attain it. In this sense, Astaroth is the embodiment of the darker aspects of human ambition, the desire to transcend one's limitations, to reach for something beyond one's station or understanding. The flaw that Astaroth exploits in people is the tendency to seek knowledge and power for their own sake, without consideration of the moral or spiritual implications. By presenting himself as a figure who can unlock these mysteries and rewards, Astaroth plays upon the natural human curiosity and drive to succeed. He understands that to truly corrupt a soul, one must first convince the individual that they are entitled to more than what they have, that their desires are valid and worthy of fulfillment, no matter the cost. Astaroth is not merely a passive tempter, offering knowledge to those who seek it. He is an active agent, working to sow discord and lead individuals further away from the divine order. Through his subtle influence, he undermines the moral fabric of society and the soul. His presence often invites individuals to question established norms, moralities, and boundaries. When Astaroth enters a story or a narrative, he represents the force that challenges traditional values and encourages rebellion against divine authority. His power lies not just in his ability to offer temptations, but in his ability to create doubt about the wisdom of existing systems, the morality of laws, and the validity of human limitations. What makes Astaroth's role as a tempter so insidious is his ability to prey on a person's inner conflicts and desires. It's not just that he offers forbidden knowledge, he also taps into the emotional and psychological undercurrents of the individual. For instance, someone who feels inadequate or underappreciated might be especially vulnerable to Astaroth's promises of power and recognition. A person who longs to understand the mysteries of the universe may find themselves drawn to his offer of insight into the secrets of creation. Those struggling with frustration or a sense of futility in their lives may be seduced by Astaroth's allure of personal transformation and mastery over their own fate. However, Astaroth's temptation often comes with the inevitable realization that the rewards he offers are hollow and ultimately lead to greater suffering. The knowledge he imparts, while vast, can never fully satisfy the thirst for truth. It only deepens the desire for more, ultimately leaving the seeker in a state of spiritual emptiness. The power he bestows often comes at the cost of moral compromise, and while one may gain temporary gratification, the toll it takes on the soul is profound. Those who fall under Astaroth's sway may find that they have exchanged their integrity, their humanity, or even their very soul in pursuit of their desires. At the core of Astaroth's temptation is the idea that the pursuit of knowledge and power can be an end in itself, that one can control their own destiny without the need for divine guidance or restraint. This is the essence of his corruptive influence. He promotes the idea that the self, in all its desires and ambitions, is the ultimate authority. Astaroth tempts individuals to ignore the boundaries between good and evil, to abandon the divine wisdom that places limits on human actions and desires. In this way, he encourages individuals to see themselves as godlike, above the need for moral or spiritual constraints, and thus susceptible to even greater dangers. Astaroth's influence can also be seen in his ability to foster a sense of entitlement in those he tempts. Rather than simply offering forbidden knowledge, he can make the individual feel as though they deserve it, that they have earned the right to access such secrets or power. This sense of entitlement is dangerous because it encourages arrogance and a belief that the individual is above the natural and divine laws that govern the universe. Once an individual succumbs to this belief, they may no longer feel bound by any moral code, making them easier targets for further corruption and manipulation. The ultimate tragedy of Astaroth's temptation is that it often leads to the destruction of the very thing that the individual sought to enhance or preserve. Those who fall under Astaroth's sway often experience a breakdown in their relationships, their sense of self, and their spiritual well-being. The pursuit of forbidden knowledge or power, unchecked by wisdom or moral guidance, can lead to feelings of isolation, despair, and eventual self-destruction. Astaroth's influence is not one that seeks to immediately harm or destroy. Rather, it lures individuals into a false sense of security, only to strip away everything that once gave their lives meaning. In the end, Astaroth's true power lies not just in what he offers, but in how he leads people to destroy themselves from within. The process of temptation, corruption, and eventual downfall at the hands of Astaroth is a cyclical and unrelenting one. Those who fall prey to him often find themselves trapped in a never-ending pursuit of something more power, more knowledge, more control, until they are left with nothing but the emptiness of their own desires. Astaroth's role as a tempter is ultimately a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the relentless quest for self-serving power. Through his manipulation, he exposes the fragility of human nature and the destructive consequences of seeking greatness without regard for the moral and spiritual cost. In the context of a story or narrative, Astaroth's role as a tempter is a powerful one. He represents the dark side of human ambition, the desire for greatness, for knowledge, for power, that can lead individuals down a path of self-destruction. His influence is subtle, insidious, and deeply personal, appealing to the hidden desires and vulnerabilities that reside in every person. Ultimately, Astaroth's power lies not just in the external forces he exerts, but in his ability to tap into the most basic and primal aspects of human nature, pushing individuals to forsake their own morality and spirituality in the pursuit of an illusion. Astaroth's connections to power, prestige, and influence are deeply rooted in the character of the demon as an agent of temptation who offers more than just forbidden knowledge or pleasure. He is often seen as a figure who lures those who seek power or authority, subtly manipulating their desires for fame, recognition, and control. His ability to grant influence is a cornerstone of his character and one that explains his prominence in the narratives and legends in which he appears. The manner in which Astaroth deals with power is both reflective of human ambition and inherently dangerous, as it illustrates the darker aspects of striving for success without regard for morality or balance. In many mythologies, Astaroth presents himself as a figure who embodies the potential of great political or personal power. This element of his character is crucial because it reveals how easily a person's moral compass can be swayed by their thirst for control or dominance. As a demon, Astaroth understands that power is not just an external force but an internal desire. To those who seek to achieve greatness, especially through means outside of divine law or virtue, Astaroth presents himself as an enticing and reliable ally, one who can provide the tools to gain power without acknowledging the moral cost. The demon's involvement in this aspect of life serves to mirror humanity's most basic instincts, the pursuit of self-advancement, often at the expense of others or one's own integrity. For the individual who wishes to climb the ranks of society, whether in politics, religion, or any other domain of life, Astaroth is seen as an easy way to circumvent the struggles of traditional ascent. The allure of this shortcut to power is tempting because it suggests that there is no need for hard work, sacrifice, or virtue to attain authority. Astaroth's gifts come in the form of influence, a kind of sway over others that can be used to manipulate, coerce, or persuade those in positions of power. His methods rely on creating a sense of entitlement in the individual he seeks to control. In exchange for allegiance, the demon offers gifts of charisma, persuasion, or even command over others, attributes that can be used to establish control over groups, events, or even nations. This promise of influence and control becomes a major reason for people to sell their souls to him, unaware that the path they are walking will ultimately lead to corruption. Power, when gained through Astaroth's means, is rarely fulfilling. It is a hollow kind of power, one that comes without the moral and spiritual satisfaction of achieving greatness through virtue. While an individual may achieve great status and authority, this power is constantly undercut by the inherent emptiness that Astaroth's methods bring. He provides no real sustenance for the soul. There are no virtues involved in this process, no honor, no principles to guide the individual toward a higher purpose. What is offered is the power to control, to dominate, but not to create or inspire. The nature of the power Astaroth gives is also deeply manipulative. Instead of providing raw strength or wisdom, Astaroth grants the ability to manipulate and sway the wills of others, and this becomes his primary tool of control. Rather than simply offering the person greater capacity or influence on their own, he gives them the power to influence others, thus creating a system of dependency and subjugation. This type of control is dangerous because it fosters a cycle in which the one who wields the power becomes further entrenched in deceit, corruption, and manipulation. Those who deal with Astaroth often find themselves at the center of a web of control, where their need for power leads them to control others, and in turn they are controlled by their own manipulations. The individual becomes both the manipulator and the manipulated, with Astaroth pulling the strings from behind the scenes. In narratives where Astaroth is a key player, his interactions with the protagonist often illustrate the dangers of unchecked ambition. The protagonist may begin as a figure with noble or at least reasonable goals, seeking wealth, fame, or success in some form. However, through Astaroth's influence, they may gradually shift their priorities toward gaining greater influence, power, or control, often abandoning their initial ideals in favor of personal gain. As Astaroth leads them deeper into temptation, their goals become more self-centered, their actions more ruthless, until they are willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to maintain their newfound power. This shift is key to Astaroth's role in the downfall of the protagonist. He does not just grant them power, but warps their understanding of what it means to wield it. His gifts come at a price, and the more the individual uses their influence, the more they risk losing the very qualities that made them human. The more an individual becomes accustomed to power gained through manipulation and deceit, the more entrenched they become in their actions. Astaroth's control feeds a person's ego, making them believe that their power is natural and deserved, rather than the result of dark, immoral acts. They start to see themselves as beyond reproach, and the pursuit of power itself becomes an end in itself. This is one of Astaroth's most dangerous qualities. He does not simply corrupt through external actions, but by altering the individual's perception of themselves. He offers power that elevates them above others, creating a dangerous illusion that their dominance is not only justified but righteous. This inflated self-perception, in turn, isolates them from moral constraints and ethical considerations. The more they focus on maintaining their power, the less they are able to distinguish right from wrong, good from evil. One of the most tragic aspects of the power Astaroth offers is that it does not bring true fulfillment or satisfaction. Those who seek power often believe that it will bring happiness, security, or a sense of accomplishment. But the truth is that power gained without conscience or care for others only leads to emptiness. In the end, those who embrace Astaroth's gifts are often left with nothing of value, despite their external success. Their lives may be full of wealth, influence, and control, but internally, they are hollow. Their sense of purpose diminishes as they grow further detached from the things that truly matter: love, kindness, relationships, and selflessness. This narrative thread of internal emptiness, despite external achievement, is a key component of Astaroth's temptation. He provides the illusion of a fulfilling life through power, but ultimately, those who fall under his sway find themselves caught in a cycle of insatiable desire, unable to achieve true peace or contentment. They may achieve success, but they will never feel secure in it. The lack of spiritual satisfaction that comes from wielding power for its own sake makes Astaroth's version of power a poisoned chalice. The protagonist may begin with grand aspirations of success, but soon they realize that no matter how much influence or control they gain, they can never escape the hollow feeling that accompanies their rise. Astaroth's relationship to power also highlights the dangers of pride and the human desire for control over others. The more a person is given control, the greater their temptation to overreach, to grasp for more than what they need. This makes Astaroth a master of feeding ambition until it becomes an obsession. He cultivates a sense of superiority in the individual, leading them to believe that they are invincible, above the petty concerns of the world. This arrogance drives them further into Astaroth's grasp, as they begin to use their power recklessly, without thought for the consequences. Their initial desires, whether for success, recognition, or control, become warped into an insatiable hunger that is never satisfied. The temptation to wield more power becomes all-consuming, and the once innocent desire for success transforms into a destructive drive for domination. Astaroth's influence, therefore, is not just about the immediate benefits of power. It is about the long-term consequences of embracing that power without balance, without an understanding of its true cost. Those who fall under Astaroth's sway may gain control, but they lose their souls in the process. Their journey from innocence to corruption becomes a tragic tale, illustrating the dangers of seeking power for its own sake, and the ultimate futility of gaining influence without conscience or ethical consideration. In the end, those who choose to embrace Astaroth's gifts find themselves on a path of eternal dissatisfaction, always striving for more but never achieving the peace or fulfillment they hope to find. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like and subscribe for more, and stay curious.